Hello, hello. This is Jen from Nearing Wild, and thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. I'm going to start off right away with a trigger warning. I'm going to be talking about what's been going on in the world lately. So there's your trigger warning. You've probably seen the episode title, so that will probably tell you right away what this is. But in light of what has transpired with the overturning of Roe versus Wade, I wanted to put the podcast that I had actually planned on hold. And I've decided to do this podcast, to record this, because it is weighing very heavily on so many people's hearts. And I think it's very confusing. People are very emotional, rightly so. And I thought that this is very in line with a lot of the things that I talk about. I could not just not talk about it. This is going to be a two-part series. And this first part, so today I'm going to be talking about a little bit about how I felt throughout this, my opinion on what's going on and why this is all happening. I'm hoping that this can help maybe shift your perspective or give you a new perspective. You don't have to take it on if it doesn't align with you by any means. And also why this is so triggering for people, whether you're a man or a woman, whether this affects you or you feel like this doesn't even affect you. We're going to get into why you might be feeling triggered. And then part two is going deep into why this is not a women's issue. This affects men, this affects children, this affects the collective as a whole, every single person. So both are equally important, but they're a little bit different in energy. So I thought that I would split it up. So today I want to start with whatever you're feeling is okay. It's normal. I want you to allow yourself to feel that. So I've heard everything from this doesn't concern you, you're not even in the States, or this actually is not as bad as you think it is. That's my favorite. That was a comment that was recently posted on a Facebook status that I shared from a nice white man. Also, I have heard, why are you even shocked with what's happening in the world? Because there are so many people who are really just feel like this is just another thing. And I totally resonate with that. I totally relate and I get it. I get where you're coming from if that's where you're feeling. Like, I'm not even shocked because what else are we going to expect, right? So despite the energy of guilt that people are putting into the world or putting into people who are feeling anything, any sort of way about this, I want to remind you that you do not have to take that on. Adding shame for feeling the way that you're feeling is not going to help. And other people who are adding shame, that's about them. It's not about you. And I just want to say too that feelings are freaking confusing, right? They are not logical. They are feelings. They come from two separate places in your body and they can be all over the freaking place. You can feel completely fine one day and then a disaster the next day. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. That's okay. That is totally okay. That is what feelings are for. But putting a feeling on a feeling like shame or any sort of moral sentiment, it literally does nothing but force you to shove that feeling away. And that ends up getting stuck in your body. So again, whatever you're feeling, just let yourself feel it. Last Saturday, I went on a solo hike and I ended up spending most of the car ride there just in tears, completely crying, overwhelmed, really, really sad. And I just let myself feel it. I let myself cry. I let myself go wherever my body wanted me to go. And it did continue once I parked and I hiked a little bit. But I think feeling your feelings and letting yourself, getting curious about what you're even feeling. Sometimes people will cry and feel shame and just push it away, and they don't even realize what they're crying for, because sometimes it can be so deeply connected to something that we don't even recognize. And that is really important to be able to recognize, to be able to feel. But something that day on Saturday triggered me, and the magnitude of what's going on. I just had this out of body kind of experience, and the magnitude just became really apparent to me. And that's what this podcast is going to be about, because I know that there's a lot of people who are mad, angry, and a lot of people who feel like they just want to give up. And I might get a lot of heat about this, but I'm in a place now where I'm not mad. I'm not angry. And please don't get me wrong. This is freaking huge. What is going on in the world? This is not something to just look past, that this is something that is unimportant. This is huge. I'm not trying to say that this isn't completely freaking devastating, because it is. I'm not saying you shouldn't be mad. You should feel however you feel, and that's okay, because this is huge. It is big. It's a reflection of where women stand in society. And still, I should add the word still there. It's freaking exhausting. It's scary. And I cannot imagine how terrifying it is for anyone this actually directly affects right now. And I am not trying to minimize that. So when I say I'm not mad, it's because, first of all, I've moved through a lot of the emotions that I was feeling, but I also prepared myself for this in a certain way. And just the way that my mind works and the business that I'm in, the work that I do, I'm able to shift my perspective pretty easily. And that's what I'm hoping to share, because I'm not surprised by this. And I'm sure there are a lot of people who feel like they're not surprised, or that they shouldn't be surprised, but it's still completely overwhelming and devastating to think about. So what we are experiencing now in the world, on Earth, everything that we've been experiencing for the past few years, even this great divide, whatever you want to call it, this is the crumbling of structures. This is the changing of what we thought was safe. You know, it's happening on a global scale. Shit is literally falling apart. Things are not making sense anymore, and it is very confusing. And it's also happening on a small scale. People are losing their jobs. They have been losing their jobs. People are separating in relationships, and so much more. We are feeling more lonely than ever before, even though we are very deeply connected online in many ways. It is available to us, and yet we feel so separate. And all of this comes down to the truth being really revealed. When we were all isolated for so long, it made people do one of two things, I feel. So it made people numb out completely and maybe sit in front of their TV for a long time, maybe numb out with food, numb out with working out. Even some people, I know gyms were closed, but that still happened. Numbing out with drinking, shopping. There are so many things. Or the other side of being alone and maybe going through that numbing out stage, but then recognizing something has to change. It's been a freaking triggering time for so many people. People are living in fear, and what's happening now with the Roe versus Wade, this is just another part to it. Another part, another layer to this great divide. But listen, the systems, the people, the structures, everything has to crumble. That is completely freaking necessary. Everything has to collapse in order to be rebuilt. And I believe that we are living in a very potent time. Everything is extremely heavy right now. Everything is energetically very strong. And this shift that we are seeing or beginning to see literally could not happen without this crumbling that we are seeing. We had nothing to build off of, so it had to completely fall down. The foundation was too weak. There literally was no foundation, right? I think we've moved so far away from our goal and where we're supposed to be as a society that it had to completely collapse. So people are lazy. We are entrained to take, the easy way to do things, the easiest way that we possibly can. And until things are bad enough, like, people don't care. People turn a blind eye, they look away. And something that is not too hidden, most people know this, people have to get mad. They have to be freaking outraged to be willing to do something to make a change. They have to be mad. They have to be completely in awe of what's going on in order to step forward and make a change. Obviously, I'm not talking about every single person, but for the most part, that is a truth. This is happening, the collapse, the crumbling, this is happening to awaken us all. The collapse is for a rebirth. This is not the end. In my opinion, it feels like the end, and I understand why people feel that way, but this is actually an invitation to transform, to expand. It's an invitation to start again, to rebuild. The old has to shatter. Literally, the old systems did not work anymore, clearly, and we had to completely let them fall. So sorry. As a collective, this is necessary. And that's what I think is happening right now with all of this that's coming up, this devastation, this backwards thinking, that so many people are confused at people who are connected to their truth and their heart. And they are saying, like, why is this happening? I believe that is why. People have literally been predicting this time for so many years. It's literally written in the stars, and I'm not going to really talk too much about that because that's not my thing, but you can easily research it. I'm going to talk about my beliefs and my view on this, but there are many people out there who believe the same. I'm sure of it. And that is that the shit that's happening right now has to happen in order to create the new earth, which is happening. Okay. So society as a whole has strayed so freaking far away from the truth, from the way that we are supposed to be living. Individually, each person has steered very far away from their own truth, from the reason that we all came here onto earth, from our soul's purpose, whatever you want to say. We have, as a society, strayed so far away from that our identities and old identities and new ways of being are not enough, right? We know this. This had to happen. So we are divided. That's not news, right? You're like, yeah, Got it. I know. But we are not meant to live that way. We're not meant to do all of this alone. We are not meant to be separated, but we need to be together. We need to stand together. And it's really easy, especially right now, to get stuck in a shitty place because everything that's happening seems so freaking backwards. And there are memes, there are jokes going around about how it's the year 2022 and yet it feels like hundreds of years ago. And yeah, that's the truth because we literally had to come to this place where it got so bad in order to change it because people were just going along with what was happening. People aren't recognizing how far away we are from our truth. I say individually because it is individually, but it's affecting almost everyone. So it's a collective in that sense. I hope that that explains that well. And I do think that whatever you're feeling right now, because this is freaking devastating, this is extremely heavy. It's huge, right? I do think what you're feeling is important, and moving through your emotions and really understanding why you're feeling the way you're feeling is so important. There are probably a lot of people who are triggered deeply and don't even know why, because this can trigger so many other things. So I want to talk about this a little bit because I've had a lot of conversations with people who are like, why am I so deeply triggered by this? Like, I get the magnitude, but it isn't affecting me on a personal level. So, and that is coming from men, that is coming from women who either aren't actually experiencing this or don't have a specific worry for themselves. I live in Canada, for instance. But I want to explain this a little bit because what's happening now is extremely triggering for multiple reasons. So for me, it really triggered the feeling of being silenced in my childhood, being told that I was stupid for having my own beliefs, or actually experiencing some physical hurt, to put it lightly. I don't want to go too much into trigger warnings, and learning that, or being told that it was my fault. So I learned to stay silent. And that silence, that is a deep wound. And this shit is triggering that because this, as a woman, is telling me, once again, I don't matter. What you think doesn't matter. And also, as a woman, we all have ancestral wounds that we carry. So whether or not you have experienced something similar, like I just told you in your childhood, isn't really relevant if you're like, I never had that. I felt free to say whatever I wanted and I had a great childhood or whatever. We all have completely different wounds, right? Sometimes they do mirror. And you might be listening to this because you are similar to me, but you also might not. So it doesn't matter if you've had that experience or not, because we also, as women, have an ancestral wound that we have literally been burned at the stake for being ourselves, for speaking out, just for being who we are. So even if you don't have that experience, this trigger could be triggering this ancestral wound that we all carry, because we carry wounds from 7 generations before us, and that includes to 7 generations after us. We will pass it on. So that could be an explanation of why you're feeling the way you are. If you're a man, seeing this in other people can create a similar trigger, a trigger in wanting to defend and not being able to defend, in not knowing how to help. There are so many different things that this could trigger. I've literally named like 3 there out of a million possibilities. A million's maybe a lot, but there are so many reasons why we can be triggered, and it's often unconscious. I was going to say it's always unconscious. It's always unconscious until you become conscious of it. So if you don't know why, that's totally okay. Just know that whatever you're feeling is okay. It's valid. So I'm going to bring it back to the fact that it's extremely easy right now to get stuck in a negative place when you look at the state of the earth, the planet, and everyone that's living right now, what's going on. It's easy to let that keep you down, but know that if you're freaking mad about this, if you are like, if this is stirring something up in you that you're like, this can't continue. I can't believe this is happening. Whatever the words that are going through your head are saying, then I need to tell you something. You are going to be a part of the solution. That is why you're here. And I'm going to stand by that. That is my belief. If you're listening to this and you've been extremely freaking triggered, it's because you're here to be a part of the change, the solution. And I don't say this to put a bunch of pressure on you. I say it because it's the truth. And if you're completely sick of this and you're ready to see change, it's because you're part of the change. So don't feel pressure, because I promise if you are here to be a part of the change, and you are, you have done this before. Okay. So that's my first point. You've literally done this before in past lives, and it's going to feel natural to you. So it might be scary because your ego might be telling you like, this is terrifying, but it's actually going to feel very natural for you. And also people have so many different roles, and not everyone's roles are maybe the one thing that you're picturing like, oh my gosh, that's not what I'm here for. There's big roles, there's small roles. And all I am saying is you are part of the creation of the new earth. So, there are so many different levels of people who actually change history. So just keep that in mind. I don't want to scare you, but you being mad or angry or upset or just frustrated and ready for things to change, it's not a bad thing. So my biggest piece of advice is to, if you want to make a change in this world, shift back to you, begin to heal yourself. We quite literally cannot be there for other people, and we can't shift into our best self or our highest self in order to do that if we have not healed or begun healing. Often, if you feel like, oh, this might be connected to like my purpose here, but I don't know what that is, I'm here to confirm, yeah, it probably is. But you need to heal in order to connect to that. There needs to be some more going on in the background for you to connect to your highest self, to connect to your soul guides, your team, whatever that is for you. You have to plant yourself deeply in order to grow and in order to help people along the way. So often we are, I'm going to say always, we are wounded and we are unhealed and probably triggered in many areas for, our entire lives until we become aware of it and begin to process what's happening within us and begin to heal the wounds that have been created. We are not able to see the things that we need to see if we are living in ego, if we are living in our subconscious, which we're all living in our subconscious. But if you are not aware of that, then you're not going to be able to see the things that you need to see. And also know that as you heal, you are healing your ancestors too. So just as you carry the wounding from your ancestors, like I was saying before, you can heal from as you heal 7 years before and 7 generations beyond. So you're healing yourself, you're healing your ancestors, and you're also healing the world. So as a collective, the thing that we need to change is individuals. That's the thing. And that's why I'm saying to start with yourself, because also this shit that we do, it freaking emanates. So the more that you heal yourself, people around you are going to begin to do the same. We bring others with us as we begin to heal. And that's actually a very cool thing to see as you heal. I've been able to see that firsthand, and very cool. Also, if you're listening to my podcast or watching this podcast, I know that you are ready to do the work. Otherwise, you wouldn't freaking be here. You would not relate to this. You would be like, what is she talking about? And maybe a lot of those people have already stopped listening to this episode, but you're here and you're listening. And that means you're ready to do the work, because our soul only allows us, it gives us the things that we need to heal from when we're ready to heal them. The awareness, all of that comes when we're ready. And yeah, you're ready. It's freaking admirable. It's courageous. I love you for it. And sometimes it feels like it's never enough what we're doing, that we're never doing enough. But I wanted to tell you that it always feels that way. Just choose to keep going and keep healing. All of this that's happening too is a call to honor yourself, to know when you're growing, know when you're resting, know what your body needs, because that is so important. I think it's really easy to always tell ourselves we're not doing it's so easy to always tell ourselves we're not doing enough. And really, that might be our body telling us, please rest. We just did so much. And that right now is so important. If you're feeling really down, allow yourself to feel that. That is okay, and it's necessary. You need to move through it. You can't just get back up and keep going if you've got this really heavy feeling. Okay. If you are a woman, this is a call right now for you to stand in your power, to stand up for what is right for you, what is right, and what feels like your truth, what feels true to you, even if it's completely against the grain, especially if it's completely against the grain, to keep being true to you. And I want to remind you, or maybe this isn't a reminder, this might be the first time you've heard this, that your body is going to tell you when you are being true to yourself. You might feel it in your throat if you're not saying something, if you're not speaking up for yourself. You might feel it in your gut, but your body is giving you little notifications of how in line with your authentic self you're being. So tune into that. And another thing is to start to recognize how the women around you, maybe as you were growing up or people around you right now of various ages, have also been silenced and not given the awareness or the opportunity to change. Just beginning to recognize that is going to make a huge shift in your energy. And if you are a man, this is a call for you to also stand up against the things that you know are not right. Stand up for what you know is right and what feels true to you. Be on that side of history. Speak up. People listen to you. So this is very important. And also recognize how the women around you have been disempowered and silenced, and how you can change that. This is people possibly in your family. It could be people that you see just out in public. How can you stand up for these people and stand up for what feels right for you? And I want to invite you to keep your eye out for part 2, because this one is so, so important. I mean, they both are, but I want to talk about something that not a lot of people are talking about. I actually don't think I've seen anyone talk about this. And that is the fact that this is not a women's issue. It's not just about women's rights. And this goes really deep. And I'm not trying to say that it's not a women's issue because we're all connected. It goes so much deeper than that. And I can't wait to share about that. So whether you're a man, a woman, I mean, I don't think any children listen to this, probably not. Please don't, I swear. I mean, how bad is swearing, right? Keep listening. But this one it's really important. And this is an everyone issue. This affects everyone. So keep your eye out for the next part. If you liked this and you want to give me a 5-star review, I thank you. And I want to give you a gift in return. All you have to do is write and rate me 5 stars and take a screenshot of that review, share it on social media, tag me. And in return, I'm going to pull a card for you. And that will be a message for you from your higher self. And you will be able to receive a message that your soul wants you to hear right as I pull it. I freaking love doing these so much. It's always exactly what we need to hear. Okay. I love you all. Thank you so much for being here with me. And now it is time for you to put down your phone and get outside. I will talk to you next week. This is taking a minute for me to end.